men are logical, right? Or at least that's what we've been taught. So it's weird to me to see the logical sex so just unable to understand why a woman who has, 100,000 followers on Instagram based on her beauty, right? Because that's all it's based on. Just not
Yeah.
delivering content that's really impactful. She's gorgeous and other girls want to look like her so that they can get guys. And he wants a woman that looks like that and acts like that to be willing to build. She's advertising so that she doesn't have to build.
So she's technically building herself.
She's building herself and she wants a man who's going to appreciate that.
I think a thing that women don't know, a lot of women don't know, is that some men only want you because you are the top pick of the litter.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he wants to keep you.
I agree. That's the problem. I think that's the problem. I think that I remember my mom told me something. She said men will destroy a beautiful woman because they will gas their head up and the woman thinks she's so much finer than everybody else. And she can have all these men and they give her the attention. And attention is a drug.
Mm-hmm.
So all these girls that get the attention, they think that they can have the man. But that doesn't mean that you can have him. It means you can have him for that moment. And he's serious about that moment. He's not sincere about the totality of it. So then they'll say, later when he actually settles down with a different type of girl, the girl feels like, oh, I could have her man. You could probably have him for a night, but that doesn't mean that you can have him.
You could borrow.
Right. You could rent or lease it for a night, but he probably, because I think women believe that because they can get the attention from a man. And a man reaction to beauty is over. Like I'm not going to go into detail, but I've been around what the world considers some of the most beautiful women as far as society, right? Culture and all that. The way men act, it tricks me. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to marry her. he's in love. It's crazy. Like he is just going in and it is daunting. That's why I'm like,
yeah, that's so true. Cause you see like,
hard.
what?
Like, and it's really not even about her. A lot of times it's about, I want other men to see me get that.
Exactly.
I could pull that. That's why they like to pull each other's chicks. Like all the guys, one of my friends in Atlanta has a podcast called The God Show. Ray Daniels said he was like, we're all sleeping with the same girls. The politicians, the rappers, the scammers, the drug dealers, because you are being used as a way for him. Just like he got a car sitting out there to impress other dudes. He got this chick. I mean, they get passed around. So I understood later what my mom meant. The attention can get you thrown off and you can lose sight of the reality and you will lose in the end.
And men, honestly, we want what people can't have. So I think back then it was like better to have a girl because I really didn't know her past. You know what I'm saying? But now I could be with a girl and if she got a good enough following and a crazy rap sheet,
right?
The society would tell me in a day, like, oh, well, and the next thing I know, I see me and 7 other people on Shade Room with the same picture and just different locations with her. And I think that's what also ends up like kind of throwing everything off. But I wanted to actually touch on something too, right? Because we're talking about lies, about the lies that are keeping women from finding the man that they would like, right?
We'll find the man that would take them seriously because you can
like anything.
You.
Yeah. So let's tie that with tricking culture.
Okay.
What would create a man to start tricking? Like I know you did have an example of like a man who didn't want, like he might be older, so he's like, I don't want to deal with the mouth and whatnot. But now I'm saying like, let's just say this is a rare 35-year-old $1 million earner, or not even $500,000 a year earner, right? And he's got himself a 27-year-old woman. So she's not young, but she's mature.
Right.
But every woman he treats, every woman he's getting and got, even prior to his money, he was always frivolous with his resources.
Yeah.
What does that do to the woman? And what does that say about the man, in your opinion?
Well, I think in order to talk about tricking culture, we have to really be honest about the fact that strip club culture became mainstream, right? So when I moved to Atlanta, guys would go to this. First of all, when I was growing up, like a guy wouldn't marry a stripper. Like that was considered taboo, right?
It should go back like that, in my
Now,
opinion.
now it's changed, and the rappers were like talking about the strippers, making them the stars. Like they were like doing. Do you know how many girls have called me that used to strip and have told me that they are the girlfriend of someone famous because they want me to be their publicist? And I'm like, well, how do you know that he's your boyfriend?
Yo.
And they're like, well, because he told me. And I'm said, well, if he calls and tells me, then I'll believe that. But the strip club culture really, really glorified tricking culture, right? Because I've been in a club with Atlanta folks, popular celebrities, where 50,000 is thrown by this guy, and then he says, "Oh, I gotta up the ante. Somebody else is gonna throw 60, right?" You've been in a strip club with Floyd Mayweather. You've seen this type of thing. Like you can't. One thing you can't do is out throw Floyd. So so other guys are trying to do it, so really it becomes like
A bidding war?
a bidding war, and it's not about the woman, and the woman is used as the pawn, right? So I think in order to really look at that, now you have people saying, "Oh, well, I got my girl this," and it's like, okay, the girl is thinking he really loved me, he bought
Mhm.
me this, but really it's about men, it's about the toxic masculinity of showing this is what I got. So I think that culture became really glorified, and in the like early 2000s, specifically in Atlanta, but it was because of the music, right? And that's what was happening. And music dictates culture, right? So you got T-Pain saying, "I'm in love with a stripper. She's doing this, doing that."
Damn, you right. T-Pain, you started it.
T-Pain starting, and then Tyga married a black child.
I
And
remember
it
when
just
50
kept
Cent
going.
did it. When 50 Cent,
Yeah.
I forgot what stripper it was when he was engaged to one.
Drake put Lala Malaya
But
in his record. I know,
we already knew Drake was
I
gonna do that. Like 50 Cent was the one that was like, "Word?" Like you was supposed to be the big bro. You know what I'm
know. Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Damn,
Look,
you're
I mean,
right.
look at the girl that's in between 50 and Diddy now. Like
That's
that's
why there's a lot of
crazy.
little sex workers.
It's but that's the thing about it. And I hope women are watching this because you can never win in that war. Like you can never win as a woman unless your goal is just to get money, but you're going to end up getting played because a man can play a different game. You have to play a woman's game. You cannot play a man's game. And I think a lot of women to think, well, I can use I can use my sexuality and use him, but you can't because we're built different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we just can't do that. I think women have to understand their power is in actually this is going to sound crazy because we don't like to do it, but your power is in saying no. Because if you're the girl he can't get, he's gonna keep chasing. Once you become the girl he got, then you're just a story to brag about. And how many girls have gone through that? Like I said, girls have called me, well, this rapper told me I gave him the best head ever. Do you think he told you that so she would keep giving him the head? Like
Yeah.
probably. But a lot of times it's instinctive for a woman to want a man to desire her. So like I said, I can't lie. It is a very powerful thing, attraction in that moment. But I think we have to teach our daughters
Oh yeah.
what the long game looks like. Like, yeah, you can do this when you're in your 20s, but can you imagine being ran through by 10 guys that have a little bit of money and then getting to be 35 and realizing that you don't, okay, now what? And you don't have the same opportunity. So I think that which is why I really do a lot of the things that I do, because I feel like women have to understand, like, if you want to get ahead, sis, do your thing. But you got to know that you can't beat a man at a man's game. You really have to understand as a woman. And I feel like women have driven their value down because this girl she told me that Drake told her that she gave him the best head ever. She came with Lil Wayne and she left with Drake. We're tapped out. Where are we gonna go now? We're out. We're done. And we're
Yeah.
done. Like you could go through the rest of the crew, but and this person was 37 years old.
Damn.
40 is coming. Now what?
Well,
Who's
40's
gonna
here now.
who's gonna pick that up? I mean, so I just think you have to be you got to be smart as a woman to know where your power is. And I can say, like, from going through those stages and seeing how I've seen some wild stuff, the woman who says no has a different type of respect. Then it's like, oh yeah, we did that. I mean, you see
Hmm.
Cameron and Mace, like, it's hilarious. But I think a lot of times it can feel very, very powerful. I had a girl tell me that got these implants and she had a horrible situation happen and she needed, her body just like totally turned on her after getting all this plastic surgery. And she said, Crystal, the power I felt when I got the butt job and the way men treated me, the money they gave me and the money they spent on me, it was addictive. And I just couldn't, because she kept getting
More and
more
more.
and more and more. But she said, and I was just like, I grew up with a butt my whole life. So I was just like, that's crazy. But she's a beautiful girl. She just was tall and thin. And she said, when I got the butt implants, the sexual attraction, it felt so powerful. It made me feel like I was controlled. But that's the trick. She was never in control.
Hmm.
Never.
She was just a target,
Yeah.
another target.
And she didn't get that until it was too late. And now she's like in her 50s with a messed up body.
Casualty of war.
Yeah.
I mean, what, Marie? I mean, and I agree. And I think that that's a great thing that we need to do. I say this, right?
Yeah.
I think that I would say a lot of this has played as a result of things that happened in the 1970s, 80s, 90s about just our culture, our community, men not being there,
Yeah.
right? For all the different reasons. And I think that when we see these girls from, let's just say 2005 all the way up to 2015,
Yeah.
be the same way with that decade. And they're going to all, I don't want to say all, but a lot of them have the same results. I think it's a beautiful thing though, because at this point, I'm seeing a lot of, well, right now, African American fathers are the most active that they've been in a very long time.
Absolutely.
I think we all got a lot of daughters, right? And I think I think it's great because sometimes you need to see the opposite side
Yeah.
of the spectrum, right? And what it really looks like.
Right.
And like from your perspective, when you were saying how, like, you seen, your grandparents say that I'm not going to be without an option, or without the ability to utilize my voice.
Right.
So then you had the rebellious side come in, right? Now the rebellious side then got super freed,
Yeah.
right, for the next generation. And now the freedom is actually, hindering a lot of the people in our community in our age bracket.
But I think it's important from my perspective to say that women, for a long time, women were repressed and felt like they didn't have control of their sexuality. So I actually really appreciate the fact that the younger generation, they feel empowered, but unfortunately, I feel like they they feel like the only way they can express their power of their sexuality is to share it around and tell everybody how good my stuff is. Like, really, the power is being able to say, "You want it, but I control who I share my body with." That's the power. And I think what happened is because there are so many, unfair stereotypes that and so much gender bias. If a woman does something, she's considered this. If a man doesn't, but that's just life. And I think we have to understand we play by different rules because we're different, and you have to learn what rules serve you. So just sleeping with as many men as possible to prove that you are good in bed is not really taking hold of your sexuality. It's not really being empowered. It's really playing into, the same misogyny that we were fighting against, right? So I think it has to go the other way for people to see. But now when I see young artists, I don't really like a lot of things they're saying, but I understand where it's coming from. But it's just like, sis, you can be powerful and you can be totally in control of your body, but that control does not necessarily mean you have to share it with everybody. Because most women, if they're honest, they've done a lot of sharing that they really didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And in the moment, it can get deceitful, but when you come on the other side, it's like, I ain't even really want to do that.
Yep.
So I think that it has to come to a place where you can be sitting on a gold mine, but it's still gold even if everybody hasn't tested it out. In fact, it makes it more valuable.
I'm about to say it's actually pure, right? So, do you think another lie,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That has been told. Do you think that, um, or what are, I mean, obviously it's a possibility, but what are the odds of
Mhm.
rebounding your, I don't want to say innocence, but rebounding your value
Yeah.
in the later years of your life
Mhm.
after having a very frivolous sex life when you were younger,
Yeah.
and finding that man that will actually that can know who you were
Yeah.
and accept who you are? What
I
would you say that
I
is?
think that's very powerful. I think that the biggest hurdle is for you to get over your own issues. I think Aretha Franklin said a rose is still a rose. So
Yeah, but she was definitely didn't.
don't do that to the
The rose could
Aretha.
die.
But you
You ever
can't.
see the rose that when you touch it, it break apart?
It can, but my point is it's still a rose, right? So even if you've gone through something that is you've done to yourself, and I've talked to a lot of girls. I used to have a charm and etiquette class, right? I've talked to a lot of girls that have made some mistakes, but I don't think your mistakes define you. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. So I would say to any young women that are out there and have made some mistakes, that once you see yourself different, other people will, and the ones that don't aren't for you anyway, because you really, in my opinion, not necessarily Rico's.
Yeah.
You really only need one, right? You really only need one at the end of the day to see you as a queen. A million men can think you're beautiful, but just because they think you're beautiful doesn't mean they're going to see you as their wife, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you start to carry yourself in a way that you know your own value and you understand who you are, that other people will, the people that are for you will start to gravitate towards that because they have no choice. Like, you can rebound from anything. A person can be in prison for 20 years, come out, turn their life around. So you could do whatever. I think the problem is a lot of times most people don't believe it themselves. And men are very good at seeing through bullshit. When women try to act like, oh, just because you
Mhm.
look good on the outside, you're pulled together, does not mean that you have their self esteem matches your outside.